I remember seeing a thing that you did ages ago, and it was talking about not counting things in. I'm not sure if you remember saying.
Oh
that.
yeah, no, I'm a big advocate of trying to communicate without
Yes.
just any verbal thing, because the idea being you want to cultivate your ability to send clear signals.
Yes.
And also your ability to read the signals of others.
Yes.
So if we can do that in an unspoken way, then we can, we're listening to each other already.
Yes.
Before we start playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the hard thing, is you can work on your intros and do an intro and not count off the tune, but the whole point is that you're aware that you're sending a message through what you're playing.
Yeah.
In terms of, the ideal thing, like I tell students, like the ideal thing is don't call the tune.
Yes.
I know how deep is the ocean. So if you start playing it, you're telling me what you want to play. Now, if you start playing a tune that I don't know, that's a different story. Then
Yes.
I'll say, I don't really know that one. Can I learn it from what you're, from what you're playing? That's, the ideas of like, not that it's always about, being super obvious, but it's about being obvious when you want to be obvious, so that you can be less obvious when you want to be less obvious, as opposed to being less obvious because you're just not sure what to play. So then you're gonna, what I mean? So the idea is really that when you're playing music, you're in that constant thing of serving and returning, taking in information that people are giving you, harmonic, rhythmic, dynamic information, and also contributing to the conversation and saying like, well, here's what I think about the harmony, rhythms, and also the general dynamic. Because it's all, everything you do is it's communication.
Sure.
That's the whole thing.
Whereas with accounting, you get none of that.
With what?
With accounting, you get none of that.
Well, the idea is that sometimes there's an arrangement, and the idea is you count off the tune. I have tunes that I've written that start a certain way. So like, if you want it to start, not every tune has to start solo or start in a ruminative fashion, where I use it to try to like get the student to say, you got to go from rubato to time, so that people know when to come in.
Yes.
And they know when to come in because they know when the end of the song is, but how do they come in? So that's the thing. You're always, just to be aware that you're always sending a message. So to have an objective, like I'm going to start, I was thinking about starting in a different key. It's like, let me, start in the same key and just work on like, just play it for a while and not really have an arrangement. If you have an arrangement that's solo intro, that's great. Play it, but there has to be that moment where you're like, I'm directing the traffic this way.
Sure.
And it's not nearly as important or dangerous as actually directing traffic, but musical traffic, is the same thing. You're going this way, and we agree this is where the street begins.
Got it.
One street ends and a new street begins. So to your question about if you count off a tune, you can be in that space when you hear the beginning of the song, then that's cool. But to me, this exercise tries to, just makes you do that. Do it when you're practicing at home too. Just start playing and say, okay, now the band will come in. I'm gonna try to.
So that's like
cue.
That's like visualization, right? So.
I suppose it is. Yeah, it's practicing with an objective in mind of like, I'm not just practicing stuff that I want to play when I'm with people. I'm practicing. I can't practice receiving information, but I can practice being as clear as possible. And those.
So, would you say that you do that? I mean, when you're practicing, you're actually thinking, this about a live situation and how you're going to interact with that live situation.
You mean specifically like visualization? Like I'm going to play with these guys. It might be like I could do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But practicing could also just be more of like, I'm just playing the song and start by myself. And with that song in particular, How Deep Is the Ocean, there's a kind of a discrepancy about how to end it.
Well, that's true.
There's a thing of where do you go back and tag? Yeah. So I just figured let's avoid that by stopping, which I like to do. I like this, when you hear a singer sing the song, they might stop at a certain part of the song to bring out a more dramatic part of the lyric at the end or something. So I just figured, all right, I started it myself. Let me try to stop the time, and you took the you took it. That was cool.
Went to totally the wrong place, but there we go.
But I tried to. No, I totally stopped the song right there in that moment,
Right.
so you could play the last phrase.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I followed you for a minute, but then when you had to say, okay,
when I played
you going by yourself, great. Like that's a thing too. Is like you send a message like, excuse me. There's that, and then there's the message of like, okay, excuse me, I'm going to come back in now. Like it's just kind of like how
Sure.
it's all conversation. So if you can practice with the element of bringing the element of conversation into so it's not a complete surprise when you play with people.
Sure.
Of course, playing with people helps you practice that whole concept because you have the experience doing it. People who really play music in a vacuum, only with pre-recorded tracks and stuff, that there's no relation to, they don't get to play with people, so they don't have that experience to like draw from it. Like if I didn't play with people and go to sessions, this is back in those Augie's days in my late, 1920, I wouldn't really know. I mean, that's how I really knew what to practice. I mean, I would have practiced whatever, but that was I go out in the world and this is what I'm faced with. These guys are playing Night Tunisia super fast. I got to practice that. If I was up there, I would not have known what to do. These guys are taking Cherokee through the keys. Okay, I better look at that. These guys are playing this ballad and they're doing these changes on the bridge of this ballad. It's like,
Yeah.
And a lot of it is
practical stuff.
A lot of it was watching others, but a lot of it was actually, in the heat of the moment. I was up there, okay, this is happening now. And this is the experience. This is what it's supposed to be. Someday, I'll be the one initiating the chromatic 2/5s instead of them having, I remember sitting in uptown with Junior Cook. I don't know if he was playing on that tune. Maybe he was. I got to get up there. It was with Tardo Hammer and Leroy Williams. They had this great session, this club way up in Inwood. Junior Cook was playing. They played this Benny Golson tune, "Are You Real," which is 2/5. But they at the second chorus after the melody, it was all chromatic.
Okay. Okay.
Or no, how did it go? I was like,
What the hell is going on here?
And that's, okay, I can hear. It's like, but it was just like, all right, I have to play on that. That's what they're doing. It was like, cats want to come sit in. They have to deal with this chromatic, and it was,
So
a moment's notice. So
So I guess I'm saying that if
not the tune moment's notice.
No.
Which is also chromatic 2/5s, but it was at a moment's notice that you're like, this is how they're changing this song, which I kind of know, and I knew the melody. Like I heard, that's from that Blakey record. I kind of know that. That's diatonic, and then it's like, they're doubling up and doing. So I was like, okay. I had to jump. So that's how I knew to practice that, and look for all those tunes that had those little chromatic 2/5s, and how can I put that in there? And just seeing, this is what people are doing when I hear that sound.
Yeah, sure.
Just trying to.
So it sort of strikes me that, well, I mean, I'm just guessing, but when there's guitarists that do a lot of practice, but they haven't got a lot of gigs, they tend to get very sort of. There's a lot of scales and arpeggios and stuff going along, and
people think I think people have to practice scales and arpeggios just because they have to know where the notes are on the guitar, and arpeggios and scales are things that help you put everything together,
I've noticed with you that you tend to play with 3 fingers, and
definitely.
it feels like there's you haven't spent God. I don't want to make this sound rude or anything, but because it really isn't, someone that will just be focused on the scale patterns, the arpeggio patterns, that will come out and they're playing. But you just seem to, you don't mind where you are, and it's all, you seem to make the most out of a very small area.
Well, I'm trying to mind where I am, like in terms of, like I'm trying to play something and in the most comfortable place to play it, or the place that's going to help with the phrasing of it. I definitely use arpeggio patterns and things that I practice and that I have under my fingers, and those things come out. But I think the way you play 4 fingers, right?
Do
because your guitar is here and the neck is here, so that makes sense because your arm feels relaxed to do this. But if to do this, the way you're holding the guitar would be weird. You're going to get like a tennis elbow or something.
Yes.
I'm here. So for me to do this, is weird. Now my elbow's in my ribs, and everything is tight.
Oh yeah.
So to do, if the guitar is here, then I do this, and the strength is here in these 3 fingers because of the angle of the hand. The pinky is like, we'll call you when we need you. It's like we're taking this sofa up the stairs and we need a 4th person to help, then we'll call you. And chords, there's with chords, I try to use the pinky to help, give the other, I can move, but without the pinky. So I'm not saying I only use 3 fingers, but when I'm playing a melody and I'm trying to project, a single line, the strength is here. So I don't even really need these 4 fingers to play a scale.
So I mean, strength literally because
Why?
Your 3 biggest fingers. Yeah.
I could, but when am I going down 2 octaves in a scale? I mean, the point is like, it's just kind of, the idea also is to kind of, for me, it's like, I like feeling intervals that I'm playing. If I'm going to play something like I mean, I might not jump. I mean, I can see it as a shape, but I also like the feeling of like, if I'm here, where do I want to go? Like I'm trying to, like I'm feeling the phrase as I'm making the string shorter.
Sure.
So it's kind of like reach for the interval. Actually, that's much more economical, but I mean, that's all I'm not looking for a position to play things in. If I have to reach for an interval, that's okay. That makes me appreciate the distance of it. So I'm just not because my hand's not like this, making a position. Positions are looser. You have fewer people on the field, so they're spreading out maybe, and so it's not just like that. But it's just, to me, it's just where the angle. Most melodies I can play, with 3 fingers, and it's not like if it's a line or something. If I'm trying to play something that's, there's not that many notes really. I'm looking for the place where I can. I mean, I don't need it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'm playing. I don't know. I'm trying to go through the tunes that I play that are maybe hard that I like. Do I use my pinky? I don't even know. I'm not thinking about it. It's just kind of like the notes and trying to get the phrasing that I'm.
It's actually not too dissimilar from Wes Montgomery, really. Like
when I saw him
the way that
on
he
a
moves
video,
around.
he seems to be very. Yeah, and he uses the open strings too beautifully. Like I love that. That's beautiful. He's like playing, that's how he plays in practice, open strings. I mean, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I guess. Oh, yeah,
Bass players are using open strings all the time, but I never would think, But I mean, I think it's just, but he was all, and he would like, he's good at kind of doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
And looking at, I mean, I think he just looks. But shapes are also interesting. I mean, about the guitar, the visual thing of just seeing how it is so much like getting free with going from through this neighborhood into this neighborhood. It's all they're all neighbors,
Do you ever have a look at the Mick Goodrick book?
I never did.
Right, okay.
I never got my hands on that. I heard he was a lot of,
Well, he speaks about this, and what does he call it? The electric ice skating rink. Like it doesn't matter if you're going this way or this way.
Right.
You can get all that covered. That's the kind of holy grail.
Yeah. Well, Ted Dunbar, my teacher at Rutgers, that was the kind of some books that I kind of dealt with, but I was dealing with him. Private as my teacher at Rutgers for a year. He made all the students play the scales.
Yeah.
And he had a book of scales, which was like, all the different positions for all the scales. And he had the long form scales, which went through the positions, but he had the positions too. And he had everything. You had to go through all your different scales in all the positions. It was overwhelming.
With very specific fingerings, sort of thing.
Not so. I don't think he was. It was more just like you have to know the notes.
Right.
So this is how we thoroughly learn and keep going back over the same, all the connections of it. But after he inundated you with scales, it was kind of like, okay, that's to know where the notes are. But to improvise, that's the last thing you want to do is just go up and down the scales like you're operating an elevator or something like that. You're just going up and down. That's not the idea. The idea